Señores, si ustedes quieren convertirse en republicanos magas, lo primero que tienen que hacer es abrazar la hipocresía. Porque la hipocresía no es un error dentro del movimiento maga, es el objetivo principal. Eso es exactamente lo que estamos viendo ahora con el supuesto partido de la ley y del orden. Dicen que apoyan a la policía, pero fueron los mismos que permitieron que 1.500 insurrectos que golpearon oficiales el 6 de enero de 2021 se fueran libres. Ahora atacan al mismo sistema judicial que dicen respetar. Simplemente porque esta vez la ley los está alcanzando. Para los republicanos, los criminales deben rendir cuentas, hasta que los criminales sean ellos. Donald Trump, amigos, ha violado las leyes de inmigración a diario, ignorando el debido proceso. Y aunque fue el congresista Jamie Raskin quien lo señaló directamente, en esta ocasión es Jim Jordan quien ha estado liderando la defensa de estos ataques al Poder Judicial. Obviamente, pues Jamie Raskin no se contuvo, lo puso en su lugar. Y hoy veremos esta interesante situación. Sean bienvenidos a Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Señores, hoy veremos a Jamie Raskin, muy furioso, enfrentándose a Jim Jordan en el Congreso. Así que los invito a que se queden hasta el final de este video porque veremos momentos muy, pero muy interesantes. Bueno amigos, antes de que vayamos al momento más jugoso, ¿no? Antes de hablar de Jamie Raskin, tenemos que escuchar por un momento, lamentablemente, a Jim Jordan para poder entender el contexto. Así que veamos este clip.
This is the fundamental question. It's the people. 77 million of them voted for the guy who put his name on a ballot, went out and ran, told us he was going to secure the border and do the things he's doing, and that you have a judge in Timbuktu, California, who can do some order or some injunction and stop that. That is not how our system's supposed to work. And this is so important, so important. It's we the people and the people that we elect who make the decisions.
Yo creo que muchos ya están cansados, están hartos de este famoso cuento del mandato, ¿no? Que los republicanos se han estado inventando. Vimos a un congresista demócrata, Jim Jordan, decirles que si de verdad quieren gobernar, tienen que asumir la responsabilidad. Si creen que tienen el derecho de cambiar las reglas, entonces háganlo por la vía legislativa, no rompiendo la ley, como Donald Trump quiere hacerlo. Porque no, amigos, él no ganó con un apoyo arrollador. Él no tiene este voto popular. No tiene el voto del pueblo. De hecho, su índice de aprobación sigue en caída libre. La gente lo odia por lo que está haciendo, especialmente con su ataque al sistema judicial. Precisamente este es el motivo por el cual Jamie Raskin lo destrozó en esta intervención. Veamos este clip.
So why have 34 federal judges from 11 different districts with a combined 474 years of service on the bench, judges appointed by Presidents Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump, entered 57 different preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders against President Trump and Elon Musk's executive orders and actions, like the ones nullifying constitutional birthright citizenship, unilaterally dismantling congressionally created agencies, or impounding and diverting funds appropriated by Congress. Well, the majority says it's because these are radical judges. And they lead off, as our good Chairman Issa did, with Judge Jeb Boasberg, the chief judge of the District Court of the District of Columbia, who enjoined the mass roundup and deportation of immigrants to an infamous El Salvadoran prison in peacetime without any due process at all, allegedly under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a statute explicitly limited to wartime and military invasion. Some of our colleagues have been railing against Judge Boasberg for ordering the planes to be turned around. They say those planes were filled with terrorists, I think my good friend from Texas said. Well, here's one person of many who wasn't a terrorist on that flight or a gangbanger. His name's Kilmer Garcia. He's a Marylander married to a U.S. citizen who has a 5-year-old son with autism. And he went to pick up his son, but he was picked up first by ICE. And then he was shackled and put on that airplane and shipped off to the torturers of El Salvador without ever having the benefit of those two most beautiful words in the English language, due process. He never saw a judge. Nobody ever told him what he was being charged for. Nobody ever told him that there were any charges against him. And he was sent to a mega prison run by the self-proclaimed dictator of El Salvador. And yesterday, you know what happened, Mr. Chairman? The Trump administration admitted that it had made a mistake. He was not actually a gangbanger. He was not a criminal. It was all a mistake. If there'd been due process, maybe that would have been determined, but there wasn't. But they put him on that plane in El Salvador. Well, all's well that ends well, right? No. The administration says there's nothing they can do about it now because he's no longer in U.S. custody. This guy who lives in my state, married to a U.S. citizen, with citizen children, he's stuck with the dictator of El Salvador. Well, Judge Boasberg, some of our colleagues want to impeach him. Look, some of our colleagues, they've got for wanted signs in the Cannon House office building with the names and faces of judges on them. They want to impeach them now. They want to impeach Judge Boasberg. Some of my colleagues should be alerted to this fact. Judge Boasberg was first named to the bench by President Bush. He was Justice Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale. Known in legal quarters as a very conservative judge, but they want to impeach him because he stood up for the rule of law. Now, Democrats say all of these executive orders and actions are being struck down not because these are radical left rogue judges, but because the judges, regardless of who appointed them, are doing their jobs. If the number of decisions striking down Trump illegality is unprecedented today, it's only because the sheer number of illegal acts committed in the first 100 days is unprecedented. America's never seen anything like it before in our entire history. Trump and Musk have been systematically violating the Constitution and breaking the law to trample the rights of the people and steal our data, fire excellent federal workers en masse, and dismantle congressionally created government agencies and programs, from the VA and Medicaid to NOAA, NIH, and Social Security, which Elon Musk called, quote, the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. When brave Americans go to court to defend themselves against the President of the United States and the richest man in the world, these judges from across the political spectrum are showing up to work, and they're showing America why we have an independent judiciary. And yes, I've got to tell my friend Chairman Jordan that even if you campaign on doing something unconstitutional, like naming people kings and queens, or stealing other people's money, no, that doesn't make it constitutional, even if you campaigned on it. And the vast majority of the things here, I never heard of them campaigning on. But in any event, it's irrelevant to the job of the courts. Anyone who's read any of the decision knows that what we're witnessing today is a matchless constitutional crime spree by a rogue president and his Doge enforcer, a government contractor who has pocketed $38 billion from the taxpayers, multiples more than he has ever even claimed to have saved us. And we know how Doge makes typos, converting millions into billions. Read the decisions. Look at these cases, finding that Trump violated Congress's spending power and usurped our lawmaking power under Article 1. Read the cases, finding that Trump violated the First Amendment free speech rights, the Fifth Amendment due process rights, the Sixth Amendment counsel rights of the people, even by discriminating by name against law firms and lawyers, actually banning specific firms and lawyers from federal buildings and courthouses, federal contracts and federal employment, all simply because they dared to represent their clients, and Trump hates them. Now, out of this mountain of cases, which I can only surmise our colleagues have not read, let's zero in on Trump's executive order contradicting the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which says that any person born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a citizen of the United States. Trump got struck down by a Reagan judge, a Biden judge, an Obama judge, and a Bush judge. The Reagan judge said, quote, "I've been on the bench for 4 decades. I can't remember another case where the question presented is as clear as this one. This is a blatantly unconstitutional order." Blatantly. This is from a Reagan judge. Now, my colleagues seem to think that an executive order is greater than a law or the Constitution itself. But an executive order cannot trump a federal statute, much less the Constitution. An executive order is just an order to the executive bureaucracy to follow a policy unless and until it's countermanded by law, by the courts. Many of our colleagues are following Trump and Musk in calling for impeachment right now. There have been only 15 federal judges impeached in all of American history, always for serious professional misconduct.
Lo que estamos viendo, amigos, es solo la continuación del plan MAGA para poder desmantelar el gobierno tanto como puedan. Esa siempre ha sido su intención y la están ejecutando en este momento. Quieren atacar cada institución, quieren destruir la confianza en el gobierno, quieren debilitar el Estado para poder privatizarlo en favor a los multimillonarios. No solo buscan operar fuera de la ley, quieren un mundo donde las leyes ni siquiera los toquen. Donald Trump ha prometido que quiere ser este dictador desde el primer día, por si no lo recuerdan. Y cada día que pasa, sigue avanzando en ese plan. Por eso, amigos, es que hay que señalarlo, llamarlo por su nombre y enfrentarlo. Y eso es lo que estamos haciendo aquí. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Como siempre, apóyame con tu like, compartiendo este video con tus amigos y suscribiéndote a nuestro canal. Políticamente en desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.